Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to a masterclass with Tara Pryla Studio. Tonight we are doing unapologetic sound. Let me pull this up here. Oh, I have the wrong screen. That's all right. Let me get it open and then I will share. Then I will share. Here we go. Unapologetic sound. All right. Now we have it up. Present. Full screen to you all. Okay, here we go. Like I said, it's unapologetic sound. If you were here with me live, feel free to raise your hand or comment in the chat as per usual. If you are listening later, whenever I do choose to post these, you can comment wherever you're viewing this, probably Substack and YouTube. And I think that's it. If you have any other questions, email me or DM me or something. Okay, let's get started. Let's get started, shall we? All right, y'all know that we start with agreements every week. So we are going to start with the agreement of having a brave space. And I believe I talked about that in the Lift Every Voice Masterclass, like a brave space versus a safe space. So we're not here to we're going to talk about this later, but we're not here, excuse me, to be perfect. We're not here to play small. We are here to be in a brave space that's not necessarily preserving people's comfort. We are here to explore. All right. And then something that I say in voice lessons and that I adapted to this. So what I say in voice lessons is what happens in lessons stays in lessons, right? Like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But in this masterclass, hopefully you will uncover some stories and leave with the lessons. So a lot of people that I come across, they have stories to share, but sometimes they don't want to share from that painful place or from the spot, like the messy details, right, of life. I think that there's growth going into that. However, if you want to just take the lessons from today and share them with the world, share them with the world. And if you can make those agreements with me right now, feel free to continue on in this masterclass. If you cannot, bye. Okay, so what is being unapologetic? What is being unapologetic? And I'll let you, I mean, you can see the stuff on the screen right now, but I'll also give you a moment to ruminate on that. What is being unapologetic in our sound, right? And this could be, I should probably say that this can be singing or speaking. Much like we talked with capital V voice, this is talking about being unapologetic in that capital V voice. So any medium that you can think of that would be a voice, right? Which I think of as writing, speaking, singing, art making, creativity. Those are all things that have the potential to be unapologetic. So, the first thing for me is ridding ourselves of perfectionism because perfectionism itself is an apology, right? It's the way that we enter audition rooms with our heads, well, like in the proper way. In the opera world, we're often told as women to wear jewel toned dresses that don't cut too low and that hit your knee and the perfect height heel. And you're supposed to kind of walk in and be a little bit demure, a little bit cutesy, a little bit demure, right? Um, and so we take away a part of our identity, and we talked about this last week, but we take away a part of our identity and we instead put forward a watered down or often whitewashed version of ourselves when we're playing, particularly at the professional level. um, we don't have to do that, right? We just don't have to do that. So and I think I find this when I'm teaching that people will make like an authentic sound or a sound that is the most natural to them, um, and most colorful. I hope y'all know what I mean when I say colorful in terms of sound. And they'll go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," like immediately afterwards. And that's part of this perfectionism thing too, right? That you're trying to um, perfect someone else's sound, even if you're like trying to be Whitney Houston, or you're trying to be someone other than yourself, right? You're trying to be Beyonce singing Dreamgirls, or you're trying to be Leontine Price, or you're trying to be Martin Luther King when you're speaking. Like all of these instances, or you're trying to be Toni Morrison in your writing. All of these instances are things that are pulling you away from your most authentic, most aligned, embodied, unapologetic sound, right? And unapologetic art by extension. So I'm going to give a personal anecdote here, really quick, about my vibrato. So I have had many teachers, particularly allegedly white teachers. Let me get the door. Get the door, Tor. Get the door, Tor. And welcome to Dr. Flo and Ryan. Ryan's popping in. Hello, Ryan. Nice to see you. All right. Um, so in voice lessons, what I was always told was your vibrato is too fast. You need to slow down your vibrato. You must, like, you have to be in this neutral area where your vibrato is like the perfect speed. And no, like that is removing me from my authentic sound. And honestly, quite frankly, like I think that vibrato, and this, if I ever do go get a doctorate, y'all, and if I ever do get multiple doctorates, one of my doctorates would absolutely, like, the doctoral paper would be on vibrato speeds by race, because I do think that they heavily differ between certain races and, of course, certain genres. And so, anyway, that was a way that the classical music industry was trying to push me into an area of perfectionism instead of um, being unapologetic, which is what we're talking about tonight. Okay. Okay. All right. So is that all I want to say about perfectionism? Let me think about that for a second. Oh, I think the only other thing that I'll say about that is that oftentimes when we're trying to make sound, or we're trying to create art similar to another person, or we're trying to like become them, that involves bringing in tension, right? It brings tension in our body, it brings tension in our thoughts, it brings sort of uncomfortable um, inner thoughts, right? The way in which we talk to ourselves. And so we're really like neutralizing our own power rather than standing fully in our power. And when obviously we choose the opposite, to kind of, like I said, rid ourselves of perfectionism, we are able to then, um, it's often a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because you might be the only person doing this in a room, but um, you are able to stand in that power, and it often feels better, right? Like you might not book the gig. You might not book the gig, you might not get the publisher to sign on with, you might not, your art might not be in the gallery, but and and sorry, my phone is going wild with a couple of other people. Um, we are, I don't even know where I was. I don't even know where I was. Oh, but we feel good in ourselves. And at the end of the day, what matters more is that we feel better as ourselves than feeling authentic and feeling aligned feels better than the people pleasing and the placating of perfectionism. That's my argument, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so we already talked quite a bit about standing in the authentic voice. I think that's wrapped into ridding ourselves in perfectionism. However, do I want to do it now, or do I want to do it later? I think we'll do one right now, and then we'll do a couple later. Um, so as you're sitting, or as you're standing, listening to this and watching this, I want you to just say "mm-hmm" to yourself. "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm." Imagine you're responding to something, right? Somebody's telling you a story. You say "mm-hmm." Oh, somebody's telling you something that they're angry about. "Mm-hmm." Right? That sound right there, that is authentic voice. That is authentic voice. right? And if we can put that into whatever we're doing, so if we're doing writing, because Ryan's here, or if we're doing speaking, right, the most natural thing to come out is something that obviously is the first thing that pops in your brain. We're not thinking hard about it, right? We just make the sound. So something that I have that I do with speakers and also people that are trying to belt is have them say, "Hey," which I'm not going to yell into the mic, but "Hey," like somebody is here. We have Mall of America, so I say like, "Your friend is on the first floor and you're on the fifth floor and you're trying to get their attention." Right? That "Hey" is your authentic voice. The first thing that pops in your head, the first word, that's your authentic voice that you're writing down. That's authentic voice. That's what we're looking for. That's the unapologetic sound. All right. So here's a little reflection. I'll leave this up for a second as I read it. And if you have any reflections, feel free to raise your hand or you can put it in the chat and I will come read it. So, when have you most apologized for your sound out loud or in your body? One more time. When have you most apologized for your sound out loud or in your body? I see you in the chat, Ryan. I will. For me, huh? Um, I I tell this story a decent amount. I guess I don't really anymore, but I do tell it in the studio that there was a time where I completely lost the upper part of my voice. And those of you that know me know that I am a soprano. And it was because back to this, classical music world, I was being forced into this box of a Fach, which those of you that are unfamiliar with the classical world, a Fach is simply a classification of the voice, and the classical people are obsessed with it. But I was being forced into a Fach that was too small for me, right? And too small meaning that my voice carried more heft than uh, is preferred in that Fach. And so I really started to overcompensate by cutting off my breath, by, just really staying small, hunched shoulders, really tight tongue. And actually, to this day, the tongue tension is a huge part of why I take lessons from various people because my tongue is tense because of that time in my life when people were trying to put me into a box. And so that was a time when I really apologized for my sound. The other time that I'll tell that I don't talk about very much, so you're getting it in the masterclass, is when I was in choir, like children's choir, way, way back when, right? Um, I had vibrato. My vibrato came in, okay? And that's like a really scary time when you're in a children's choir and like everybody else is straight tongue because you're in the choir with like fifth graders and you're in like ninth grade. Um, and I couldn't control it. And I remember I remember telling my choir director, like, I'm so sorry that I can't control this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm such a horrible singer. I'm so sorry. 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 Um, and he was like, it's fine. It's called a voice. So bless that particular director that I had. His name is Sean Burton, and he was really one that took a chance on me. So did Dr. Anthony Tracek King, who Dr. Flo has heard me talk about a bunch of times. I want to be Dr. Anthony Tracek King when I grew up. He is the coolest choir director that I know. So I want to be him when I grow up. All right. Ryan says high school. I'm presuming that was the answer to the question when they have most apologized for their voice. And we will move on. Okay, so last week we talked about the three things in capital V voice, right? We did talk about stance as being like a political stance or a social justice stance or, like Black Lives Matter. Like we have this statement on Love and Action Network website that is, I unequivocally believe that da 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 trans rights are human rights, land back, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the stance. I'm talking today more about like inner stance and outer stance, which I'll explain in a second. And then we've got sound. right? We talked a little bit last week about tone. This is similar, but not the same, right? And then song or speech. So the one thing that I find is that people often have a lot of trouble keeping in their authentic sound, right? So they find their authentic sound, this unapologetic sound, and they can find it in warm-ups, they can find it in like speech to singing, but they cannot maintain it once they hit the stage or once they hit the song that they're singing. And so I want to talk about the energetic shifts going from the warm-up to the song that may help you as you're studying, or if you're a voice teacher watching this, that could help your students. Your students. Okay, so let's talk about stance. Now, I really disagree with a lot of voice teachers. A lot of voice teachers are going to teach you that like you should be very straight and your shoulders back and your feet on the floor, flat, da 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 da, and like the typical like choir stance. I disagree. We have to move on stage. Oftentimes we are laying down on stage. Sometimes we are sitting on stage, and so for me, stance is simply the way that you feel best in your body, right? So maybe that is slightly hunched. Maybe that is up and open. Maybe that is hip cocked out. Maybe that is with your hands crossed. Like whatever that stance is on the outside should match the inner stance of who you most authentically are. So this is a branding thing, but if you think about like 3 adjectives or 3 words that describe you the best, that's going to represent that inner stance, right? I'm honest, I'm a force. I often choose intelligent for this one, right? And so, what does that look like on the outside? And it's going to look different for every single person. Y'all can have those same 3 words, right? And it's still going to be your stance, your outer stance is going to be different, even though your inner stance may be the same, right? Or I could choose words like joy, love, peace. Does that change my outer stance? How does that look? Right? So start kind of thinking about that because there's an energetic shift that has to happen from just allowing yourself to like we want you to be natural. We want you to feel natural. Hi Kawhi. Um hi baby. um but we want also for you to um feel like you're inside, right? Like, because for most people here, and I'm like, listen, y'all, I can do this because I'm in a music room. That's why we're here. Um, I can stand like they want you to stand in choir, right? Hands at your side, shoulders back. I hope you all heard my back just crack, right? Chest up, da 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 da. I often tell people that I think the most important part of singing or speaking is from here to here, just below your belly button, so that you can have your breath column. But this to me feels very stiff. Like if I were to go on stage like this, I would have to like Frankenstein it. You know what I mean? We don't want that. I don't want that. That's not how I feel on the inside, right? So the inside of me, the way the adjectives that I just shared, the inside of me is honestly a little bit more anchored in my hips. That's where I really feel it. When people tell me to stand up straight and like do the singer stance, I really feel like I come out of my hips. I don't want to come out of my hips. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to talk to you, right? Like this is a thing that I like to do. And you'll notice that my shoulders aren't as far back. Yes, they're relaxed. Yes, my chest is open, but I'm not overly extended. I'm not overly tense. And again, my power for me, we were talking about power last week, and I'll get to that comment, Ryan. Um, but the way that I feel my power is in my grounding, right? It is in my calmness. It is in the lower part of my body. So when I come out of that, it doesn't feel like me any longer. So we're finding what the neutral, most authentic, unapologetic stance is for you. Yeah, Ryan says it's so good you're teaching this. I've been brainwashed to believe the opposite. Yeah, right? They tell you that your voice functions the best in one single way, right? However, how many different body types are on the earth? How many different like your vocal cords look different, right? In fact, black people have thicker vocal cords than white people. That's like scientifically proven. right? So like this is what we're talking about, that these one size fits all cookie cutter stuff does not work. And if you choose to take a stance that reflects your inner, it actually makes a more powerful statement, a more unapologetic sound as you go forward. And that is, again, in all of the mediums that we can envision for our voice. Yeah. So the energetic shift in our sound is that we can't automatically apologize for the sound that we made, right? And we can't assume that the sound was wrong, because that's what I find from a lot of people that have had any kind of formal training, whether that be in writing, in speaking, in singing, in acting. There's a right and there's a wrong way to do things. And y'all know how I feel about the freaking binaries. There is no right or wrong way to do things. There is your way to do things, right? So what I find is people that are formally trained, whether that is in college, high school, elementary school, whether you took piano lessons, let's get into it, because most of y'all took piano lessons as your way into music, right? And most of y'all, I'm gonna go over here, right? Most of y'all learned you must play on this C, right? You must play, you have to play on middle C. You have to play on middle C, right? You gotta play on middle C. You gotta learn G first. You gotta learn C and G. I have kiddos that bop around the book and learn in any which way they want, because kids can learn how they learn best, right? So when we're talking about sound, that very first step is not to go, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? I have this kiddo, and this is anecdotal, but I have this piano kiddo, and she's been with me about probably like a year and a half now, maybe shorter. I don't remember. But one of the things that I've been working on with her is to not turn around and ask me if it's right. Right? She'll put her hands on the piano and she'll automatically go, Tara, I think this is wrong. Can you help me? The energetic shift that has to happen in that child to just play, right? That's what I'm talking about. I don't, that apology of like, oh, I made a sound. Was it right, Miss Tara? Was it right, Dr. Flo? Well, did it feel right? Did it sound like you wanted it to sound? Right? Was that the emotion that you wanted to portray? Was that the energy coming through your writing, Ryan? Is that the thing that you wanted to portray through your sound? Okay, then why are we second guessing it? Why are we presuming that it's wrong because of that perfectionism thing that we talked about, right? That's where it shows up. Now, remember we talked about the on the last slide, right? We talked about that neutral sound. Now, obviously, it's pretty difficult to take that even to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? We can go, twinkle, twinkle, little star. I'm singing in the same pitch range, right? As I did the But it is difficult to maintain, right? So let's just envision this one more time. I'll stand up one more time. Okay. Let's envision this one more time. So if you tell me to go, I find my voice, right? I find my voice. Okay, now stand up straight and do the sound that you know that is correct. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Where am I squeezing? My arms are squeezing. My throat is squeezing. My breath is squeezing. Okay, now if I release the need to change anything, right? If I release the need to change my stance, if I release the need to second guess my sound, then I get twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Y'all seeing the difference? Is it tracking? I think it's tracking. Okay. So that's just like kind of one of those examples that I think is easy. Now, when we get to things that are like more complicated, like let me think of something that's mm, mm, I'm gonna have to take y'all to the piano later. We'll see. But anyway, we don't want there to be necessarily an entire inner monologue between the sound or the thought of the sound to the actual making of the song or the speech or the writing. Because typically, what that interlude is something that you've been fed to believe, right? So we're not going to allow the apology to come in before we even make the thing. Not going to do that. Not going to do that. All right. So, this is something that I find in like job interviews, in auditions, in, you know, presenter spaces, in collegiate spaces, academic spaces. Um, People feel like they don't have power as the presenter or as the singer or as the instrumentalist or the auditionee. The reality is that you actually have a lot of power as that in that space. You may feel like you don't because, well, maybe you don't get the job, or maybe again, maybe you don't get to sign anything, but you do have power in your presence and in your honesty. Um, so I gotta turn this on Do Not Disturb, y'all. I keep getting distracted. So your presence and your honesty, right? Again, being able, like the outer stance is the real hinge for me. Like I told y'all, like for me, it's about being grounded. If I can find my grounding in an audition room, that allows me to be very present in my body, which then the reciprocity of that, right, is that the auditioners pay more attention to me because I am holding power and presence in my body because I am rooted in my stance. Now, for you, that might look completely different. You do not have to be grounded in your body. That may not be the most natural, the most powerful outer stance for you, but it also might be. And the only way to know is to allow yourself to explore, right? And then the second part of this, and this is something that Dr. Flo teaches in terms of Meisner, right, is the honesty. Can you bring in your experience? We talked about this last week, right? Can you bring in your experience into your emotions that you're portraying, right? Like, can you give yourself goosebumps? Because if you can give yourself goosebumps, you can give the room goosebumps, right? Can you write a passage and be like, oh my God, that was so good. Like, where is the honesty in your emotion? Last night I was teaching, and this is a song that I'm going to go to probably in a couple minutes, right? I was teaching Stone Cold by Demi Lovato, and she's ready to record it next week. And she asked me to help her choose a next song. And she was like, I want one that challenges me to get into my honest emotions. And I was like, that is it, right? Because that is the power behind this song for her. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like that is it. That is it. Okay. And what does it this is the reflection question about power. What does it feel like to claim space with your voice? And I should have put the capital V voice, but I'm talking anything. What does it feel like to claim space with your art, with your writing, with your speaking, with your singing, with your instrument, with your creativity? What does it feel like to claim space with that? What does it feel like to you? And any descriptors are fine, right? For me, it's like I talk about this a lot with my high notes. In the secret time, y'all, my absolute I have two power notes. This is things you won't get in normal lessons. This note is an E flat, and that note is a G. E flat 5 and G 5. Those are my quote unquote money notes or power notes. When I sing those and take up the damn space in them, oh my God, it feels like an out of body experience, right? It feels like an out of body experience. I'm going to so demonstrate a couple different things. I might do Stone Cold, but I also might give you all a little bit of this new aria that I'm learning because I feel like it would be interesting to see um, a song that I don't know so well and a song that I know pretty well in terms of like staying in power. But I'm also not warm, so there's that. Um, but anyway, okay, we're continuing. Think of that question. You can answer in the chat later, um, and or raise your hand. All right. Courage in performance. This is one thing that I work with a lot of people on. And this is what Blackening the Canon group chat will eventually become, in the spaces that I create for that, is allowing your performance choices to shift and disrupt narratives. Because when we choose pieces outside of the standard canon, or when we choose to take up topics in our writing or in our art that are outside of the canon, outside of the quote unquote popular contemporary, right? We change the narrative. And that is like, you have to have so much courage in that outer stance and inner stance to be able to do that. And so the reality is that a lot of people aren't doing this work because they haven't figured out their inner stance, right? They haven't figured out the combination of their capital V voice. They haven't figured out what their stake is, right? And once they find that stake or that stance or that positioning, then they can have courage in their performance to fully ground in themselves to disrupt. And some people can even find disruption inside of classical choices of the canon, right? Some people create magical reenactments of, Antigone, or of uh, I'm trying to think of other plays, or To Kill a Mockingbird, or um, the Alanis Morissette song, a Jagged Little Pill, right? Um, so some people can do it in contemporary. Some people need to choose something completely different, and it doesn't all have to be the same. But it does take courage in order to stand in it and do it, right? Again, there's a lot of steps before. We talked about a lot of those last week. This week, we're talking more about implementation of that capital V voice and having the courage to implement, right? That is what we are talking about. Okay, we talked a little bit about this earlier, which is finding your authentic voice. Like, how do you know, those of you listening at home that aren't taking voice lessons or that aren't around or that are really struggling to find an authentic art making space, right? um but you don't have somebody that's in front of you that is liberated. First of all, I think we can all take a breath together, right? So take a breath and blow it out. Now, this time that you take a breath, you're going to hold it for a second at the top. You're going to pause. Just notice where that air goes in your body. It's going to be different for everybody. Breathe in. Where do you feel your air? Breathe out. Okay, do you have any body parts that feel like they want to move as you breathe? This time, go ahead and move them. Notice where your air went. Did it go a different place because now you're a little more relaxed? You're allowing yourself to move? Blow it out. Oh, good. What else can you release, right? What's that bringing up for you? What's the first word in your head? What's the first sound in your head? Go ahead and make it. What's the first thing that you want to create, right? You got to get kind of quiet in yourself and listen to that inner voice, right? That inner capital V voice. I'm going to introduce some of these vocal exercises that I always do at the top of my lessons. You can feel free to do them. Those of you, I'm going to take my mic off for this though, because I want to blow y'all out. Those of you that are not singers, I do say that this is good for anybody to just be at home with yourself. Okay. And you can do this at any pitch level. So like, it doesn't matter if you got a low voice or high voice, you're doing this where you're comfortable. Reminder, the perfectionism is going to tell you to match my pitch. You don't have to do that because we've released that. Don't let the inner monologue tell you different. Okay. So Dr. Flo knows these, but we're going to do a hum. We're going to start easy. So let's find that like you're talking to a friend. Okay, great. Now. Mm. Mm. Once again, that time I grounded more in my hips, and I'm sure that you guys could hear the difference, right? I'm going to keep going, just repeating after me at any pitch level. E. And allowing any part of your body to move. Ooh. Ooh. Coo, coo, coo. Coo, coo. Woo, woo, woo. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, I like that last one because it always feels really, really grounding to me, even though I am a soprano. Okay, I'm going to pause here for questions before I do a little bit of a demonstration here about like taking that and the siren that we just did, those speech to singing exercises, into a piece so that those of you that are teachers watching later or watching now, or singers that are like, well, how do I do it? Like I get it, but how do I implement it? I want to show you how to do that. So, do we have any questions or comments? Okay, we're moving only because I need the piano for this because I don't know this song well. But I do want to show y'all how to use those authentic sounds, right? This is it's my new buddy, William Grant Still. This is a book of his arias. I'm taken away. Oh, I love this thing. Anyway, this is tis sunset in the garden. Okay. So, like I said, I'm not warm, which doesn't really matter. Oh no, it's not. Yes, it is. That is what it is. Why? Tis sunset in the garden. What I notice about this piece immediately is what's going to freak me out is that it's really high. Those of you that read music, I'll kind of hold it up here. It's quite high. And so when I look at that, I go, oh my gosh, how do I form a high note? Right? So instead of asking myself, how am I going to form a high note? How am I going to use those authentic sounds that I just taught y'all? Now, you hear it squeezing at the top, yeah? So how can I release that? Well, what you might have noticed is that I was not grounded in my legums, in my hippums, right? Did we hear a difference? Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to take probably an O, just because this is high, and I'm going to make it into a siren, into that authentic voice. Wasn't quite a siren because I was afraid of the notes. So I'm going to sink into my hips again. I'm going to try it once without the piano. It might be the wrong notes, but we don't care. And that's how you kind of start to learn to trust yourself. Because guess what? Was it the right notes? Yes, it was. Right? Now I'm going to add in some words and I'm going to see if I can't keep that authentic voice going through there. You see, now I've used the hum, I've used the ooh, and I've used the oh to find this authentic voice type thing, right? Why do you linger here within? Right? Y'all hear it? Now, I'm like, oh, what does this mean? Right? Back to the Meisner stuff. What does this mean? What part of my inner stance is coming to my outer stance, is coming to my emotion and my authentic voice and my unapologetic sound, because I'm standing in my sound now, yeah? So why do you linger here within? And like, what is this story about, you ask? Well, let me just tell you. So this particular aria is, okay, From her wistful, let me read this. Having abandoned his slave wife, Azelia, Dessalines has taken the beautiful mulatto, Claire, that's who this aria is sung by, as his empress. From her wistful aria, "'Tis sunset in the garden," it is evident that Claire is lonely and dissatisfied. Okay? She and Vuvel, meet in the garden, where he tells her of a plot to overthrow Dessalines and suggests that following the uprising, they run away to Paris. But to me, yeah, sure, I get the lonely vibe. I do get it. But I also like the next line. Why do you linger here within? "'Tis sunset in the garden. Flowers fair release their perfume on the evening air." Well, that tells me there's some kind of dichotomy here, right? That tells me that, yeah, why is that heavy emotion lingering here? And how can I release it in my honest way, right? And in my presence as I'm singing this. So I'm going to go a little bit further. That's presence too, being able to blow out your breath and take another one. Sunset in the garden, flowers fair release their perfume on the evening air. Now, that last one, I went to academics, right? Because it's high. It's quite high. Evening air. And it's evening, which is, in my voice teacher brain, I'm like, oh boy, that's a red flag. But I can make it clearer on an authentic voice, right? What if I just sing ah? Now, can I make it released and happy? Now, can I do it with the words? Now it goes faster. See, you just go back and forth. That's all I'm demonstrating. I hope that made sense at the end of it. And that's how you can do with also with speaking, right? And writing. Again, you just kind of you look at it and you're like, oh, was that the authentic thing? Was that the unapologetic thing? Oh, it wasn't? Great. Let me go back to something that is me, right? Okay, I'm pausing for questions one last time, and then I will be taking us out of here because I have to clean my couch, is what has to happen. I should finish this out. There we go. Checking the chat. I'm looking for hands. I'll give it another minute. But I'm out of water too. Okay, I am stopping the recording. Thank you for being here. Thank you for attending. And where's the recording? I can find it. Here we go.